pump most of its oil, Brazil drills through a mile of open ocean, then through another mile of solid salt. Rock that flows like putty and tries to crush the well shut, down to a depth where the rock is hot enough to cook you. The biggest oil companies on earth said it couldn't be done. A Brazilian state lab did it anyway. And it's quietly turning the country into one of the only places where oil is still going up. Here's the number almost nobody outside Brazil knows. More than 80% of the oil this country produces comes from down there, under the salt. They call it the pre-salt. And in February 2026, it pushed Brazil to a national record. If you saw my video on Brazil's grid, the one that's almost 90% renewable, keep it in mind. Because today is the exact opposite energy from the same country. And both are true at once. I'll show you 3 things. Why this oil was supposed to be impossible. How a government science bet cracked it. And the contradiction nobody wants to say out loud. Start with the geology, because it's genuinely insane. Most oil on the planet is easy by comparison. American shale is on land. You drill a couple thousand feet, fracture the rock, and it flows. Cheap, fast, and you drill thousands of them. The pre-salt is the other end of the difficulty scale. First you cross about 2 kilometers of ocean. Just water before you even touch the seabed. Then you hit the salt. A layer up to 2 kilometers thick. And salt is a nightmare to drill. Under that pressure, it doesn't act like rock. It flows. It squeezes in on the hole you just drilled, trying to seal it shut. It also scatters sound. The way engineers see underground is by bouncing sound waves down and reading the echo. Under thick salt, that picture smears, like trying to read the bottom of a pool through frosted glass. So for decades, the assumption was simple. There might be oil down there, but reaching it at scale for a sane price? Not happening. Then in 2006, a well in the Cenpes basin punched through and hit it. A massive column of high-quality light oil. They kept it quiet for over a year. When Brazil announced it in 2007, it was the biggest discovery in the Western Hemisphere in 30 years. That first field was named Tupi, later renamed Lula. 5 to 8 billion barrels, under 2 kilometers of salt. The discovery wasn't the hard part. Anyone can get lucky with a drill. The hard part was turning "we found it" into "we produce it every single day." If you've watched my videos on Embraer and on Brazilian farming, this will sound familiar. Because it's the same pattern. Brazil's oil company, Petrobras, is state-controlled. It also trades in New York, ticker PBR, so it answers to markets too. But its real weapon isn't the stock. It's a research center called Cenpes, and decades of being forced to drill where nobody else would. For most of the last century, Petrobras had no choice but to get good at deep water, because that's where Brazil's oil was. So it kept pushing the depth record. Deeper, deeper, deeper. Building muscle the rest of the industry didn't bother to build. So when the pre-salt showed up, Brazil wasn't starting from zero. It had spent 30 years training for exactly this fight. They learned to drill through flowing salt and keep the well open. They got the imaging sharp enough to aim through it. They turned a one-off miracle into a routine. And here's the part I love as a builder. What scaled this wasn't a single breakthrough, it was a product decision. The pre-salt is produced with something called an FPSO. Think of it as a floating factory the size of a few city blocks, anchored over the field. Oil comes up from wells kilometers below. On the deck, it separates the oil, the gas, and the water, and offloads onto tankers. No pipeline to shore required, and Petrobras didn't build one and stop. It standardized them. It started ordering these hulls almost like a production line. Same playbook, next field, next hull. That's the move. Finding oil makes a headline. Industrializing it Turning a discovery into a repeatable factory turns a country into a producer. It's the difference between a demo and a product. Now, look at what that machine produces today. The crown jewel is a field called Búzios. It's the largest deep-water oil field in the world. The reservoir is up to 480 meters thick, and the field covers an area equal to about 115,000 soccer fields. In late 2025, Búzios alone crossed 1 million barrels a day. One field. The biggest platform out there stands 182 meters tall. Stack 5 Christ the Redeemer statues and you're close. And it floats, anchored over a 2-kilometer deep abyss, processing hundreds of thousands of barrels a day. Add it all up. In February 2026, Brazil hit a national record. Over 5.3 million barrels of oil equivalent a day. And the pre-salt was 80% of it. Petrobras plans to spend over $100 billion by 2030, mostly down there. The projections say that by 2030, Brazil could be a top 5 oil producer. Possibly number 4 in the world, passing Canada. Here's why that matters wherever you're watching from. American shale, the thing that made the US number 1, is starting to plateau. The world's forecasters are now counting on Brazil to anchor oil supply outside OPEC. Part of the cushion under the price you pay at the pump runs through Brazilian engineering. 2 kilometers under the salt, and almost nobody outside the industry has heard of it. Now, the part I'm not going to dodge. I made a whole video about how Brazil's electricity is some of the cleanest on the planet. A grid so green it literally wastes renewable power. And now I'm telling you the same country is becoming a rising oil giant. Both are true. At the same time. The cleanest socket in the room and one of the fastest growing barrels in the world. Same flag. And the honest read is this. Brazil's electricity is green, but Brazil's budget runs on oil. The pre-salt funds exports, government revenue, jobs, a chunk of the state itself. Last year, Brazil exported nearly 2 million barrels a day. That's very hard to walk away from, for any country. And the tension is live. Brazil is eyeing new frontiers to drill, including near the mouth of the Amazon. That's a real fight between the oil money and the environmental cost. I'm not here to tell you it's good or bad. I'm here to point at the thing most coverage misses. This isn't hypocrisy unique to Brazil. It's the transition dilemma every producer is living. The US, Norway, the Gulf keep selling the barrels while building the green grid. Because the barrels pay for everything else. Brazil just embodies both extremes harder than almost anyone. So, step back. The pre-salt isn't really a story about oil. It's the same story I keep finding from inside Brazil. A state that bet on hard, expensive, slow science. And ended up owning a capability the open market wouldn't have built on its own. We saw it with farming. We saw it with airplanes. We saw it with the power grid. Here it is again, 2 kilometers under the salt. The world looks at Brazil and sees a commodity exporter. From the inside, the commodity only exists because of world-class deep technology. Most of it invented out of necessity by a government lab, in water everyone else gave up on. That's the pattern. Patient state engineering turned into an export weapon. The pre-salt is just the deepest, hottest, most extreme example of it. I do one of these every week, from inside Brazil's tech and industry. The grid video pairs with this one perfectly. I'll see you in the next.